Coach Pittman, appreciate you doing this with us today. How are you?
Buddy, I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So a week of rest and relaxation at the lake house, right? And now you get right back. I'm sure you were kind of chomping at the bit to get back to practice after just 3 practices before spring break.
You know, the way we do spring, where we are off days, you know, we have the meetings, a little bit of walk, and then practice Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. If you don't break it up, I mean, you're looking at 6 days a week, 5 weeks in a row. It would get a little lengthy, and so I like the fact that we go early, have the 3 practice in, have a nice studded practice in, the last practice we had before spring break, and then come back, get ready to go, and be able to scrimmage on Saturday.
We'll want to get into just a couple of specific things in a little bit, but I want to ask like an overall. There was an ethos about your team last year, and I think a lot of people expected it to be instilled by your coaching staff because of your background on the offensive line of just toughness on the line of scrimmage, and that seemed to extend to other places too. Is there a way in spring ball to continue instilling that toughness in the new players that are coming in, or is that something that just sort of shows up during competition in August when they're going up against each other, and then early in the season?
You know, I think the older guys teach what our program's about. I think the young kids come in and they learn by seeing, learn by doing. There's a certain standard that we hold ourselves to. I told the team the other day that, you know, if someone gave you 2 of your highest compliments you could ever get in your life, one of them would be that you're a loyal person. The other would be that you're tough. And that could be a man, a woman, whoever, that you're loyal and you're tough. And those are things that we want to build our program on. And I think, it's actually spring is a little more physical than even what fall camp would be, besides obviously the game Saturday. So I think this is a really, really good time for us to build that toughness into our program, which we want to be known for.
Coach, I think it's got to help when your quarterback is one of the toughest players in your entire program, and put that on display for everybody to see in so many ways last year. You know, what does it do for your program when your quarterback is as tough as he is? Because everybody's got to look to the quarterback to be an example, and I feel like that's even on both sides of the field.
No, I agree. I think he's a great leader for our entire team, but he shows what he's about each and every day at practice. Now, in the spring, obviously, they're not going to hit him and things of that nature, but his mentality, the way he goes about his daily work and things like that, it shows that he's certainly loyal to the program and certainly a tough guy as far as his leadership skills go.
Yeah, and Coach, I mean, sticking on the offensive side of the ball, we all know what KJ can do. You know, his arm and his accuracy improved from game 1 all the way through game 13. But I think one thing that may have caught a lot of people off of last season, and one of the best parts about your team last year, is all the talent that you have in the running back room, and getting all those guys, all the productivity that you had last year, mostly back this year. How are you going to, utilize those guys? Is it going to be more of by committee like you did last year, where you didn't know which one of the 3 or 4 could go off for 100, or is somebody going to be able to separate themselves to be the guy?
Well, I think it's maybe a little bit too early to tell. I will say this, that Rocket Sanders, to me, has become a running back in his first 3 practices instead of a slot receiver out of high school that we needed to play running back, and he did it because he's big, strong, and fast. So I think he's really improved. Right now, he would be our solid 1. Dominic Johnson's obviously coming off of an injury, so he's not out there, but he certainly has a solid place in our offense. The 2 guys I'm really, well, there's more than 2, but the 2 guys that I'm really interested in seeing is A.J. Green. He didn't have any scrimmages last year, so I thought that hurt him being a freshman. And then I really like this young man, Rashad Dubinion, out of Georgia. He's really looked good. And, of course, you have Hunt and Joyner and guys like that as well. But right now, because of Dominique being out, it would be a great time to see A.J., Rashad, and Jaden Hunt and James Jordan and get some reps there. But I think right now, to answer your question, I think Rocket Sanders is probably a little ahead of the other guys going into practice 4.
Mm-hmm. And, Coach, another part of the offense that everybody's going to wonder about and really excited to see some new faces. Y'all did a great job through the transfer portal and obviously through recruitment. But I think a guy like Jaden Hazelwood is somebody with obviously immense talent, and you can't really ask anybody to replace a guy like Traylon Burks. But what kind of productivity do you think you're going to get out of him, obviously through the spring, but then, once you get into the 2022 season?
I think he's a really good player. I mean, he's shown that here in the first 3 practices for us. I'm excited about Keytron Jackson and Warren Thompson as well. And then, that class that last year's class with Jackson, Stevens, and Wilson, Jaden Wilson. We moved Landon Rogers over there so you can add him into that class as well. That I think the biggest question mark, at least offensively, would be the wide receiver room. What are we going to do? I think we have some talent there. I think we have some young talent there. But if you look at our bowl game, without Burks, we didn't have a lot of productivity in the throwing game. Now, part of it was second half. We ran for around 300 yards. I get that. But we've got to develop that room. I still think we need to go in the portal to get another guy. But I think Hazelwood will be probably the leader of that group.
I keep thinking about tight end. I think with your program, and I know you guys have signed some of the best tight ends in the country for 2023.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Trey Knox is he's around 240, 245 now. I think he'll be a really, really good tight end for us. Bax has looked really good. Hudson Henry has looked really good. And then we've been really pleased with Tyrus Washington, the young freshman that came in from the state of Georgia. I think, he came in at 245 pounds. He's moved really well. So I like that group right there. And certainly the future looks bright as well.
Yeah, Coach, and, kind of the other side of the ball, because, as much as college football and football in general has been so shifted to the offensive side, defense, that old term of wins championships, and y'all have got some new faces, out of the portal, and it's going to be new, but also old. You're going to have a guy like Catalan back. Kind of talk us through what you're expecting to get out of the defense and some of the names that could become household Razorback names this year.
Well, I think when you talk about the defense, I think we have a lot of talent coming back in the secondary. We also went out and got Brainy out of the transfer portal, out of Georgia. But I think the key there is who's going to develop into a man-to-man cover corner. And, we obviously have Bishop, Dwight McLaughlin has really looked good, transfer out of LSU. Malik Chavis, we've moved him over the corner, which I think might be his position there. Keywan Parker, obviously Hudson Clark's back, and Kyrie Johnson. So I think we're going to be okay and could be really good there at corner, but we've got to be able to play man-to-man coverage, and that's the biggest thing we have to come out of. Obviously, we know about Blair and Slusher and Catalan and Jaden Johnson and Bruni and those guys at the safety positions and the nickel positions. But looking at the board, I think the biggest thing in the secondary is who is going to play cover corner. We think they're on campus. We think we can be able to play more man-free, blitz the quarterback a little bit more, win first down a little bit more, be a little more destructive on first down. So we'll see what happens, but I feel good about that, and I feel good about the corners to start with. I think you go back to the linebackers, and that's where you got your leadership and Bumper Poole coming back. I really like Chris Paul, And then you've got Drew Sanders. Jordan Cook has really looked good, along with Jackson Woodard is doing a better job, and Caden Henley. So I think we're going to be good at linebacker as well.
Coach, I want to ask about Drew Sanders and what he does for your defense, or what you think he could do for your defense, because I know he's got great athleticism, especially for somebody of his size. You're really good linebackers last year who might have been a little bit undersized. I wouldn't say that about Drew Sanders. Do you see him on the inside, the outside, and do you think that this defense might blitz a little bit more like we saw in the Outback Bowl?
I think he's an inside player. Certainly, that's our need. I think that's what his need would be as well in his NFL career. He runs exceptionally well, and he's an outstanding pass rusher, blitzer, if you want to bring a single and play man-free behind it. So he fits perfectly in there. I think having Bumper in there has helped him and Poopall and Crook, all those guys that are kind of semi-new. I think Bump's done an outstanding job of helping those guys. But Drew's got the size. I know it's different because I played inside in high school and then played outside in college. I thought outside was certainly a lot easier because really the whole ball is inside of you. Obviously, if you're playing inside linebacker, the ball can be either way, and the lineman can be coming at you either way. I think it's a little bit more difficult place to play. But Drew has really looked good in the first 3 days. Of course, 2 of them were, in shorts, but he's looked good to this point.
Yeah, Coach, back to offensive side for a bit, and it's not just with Arkansas, it's every program across the country. Take your pick. The most popular man on the team is the backup quarterback, and people are going to know kind of what kind of role is Malik Hornby going to play this year. What are you all going to try to is it going to be different packages, or what's the plan for him going forward?
Well, I think certainly we've got to give him an opportunity to win the job, which we're doing that. The second thing, we've kind of almost restructured our practice so Malik can, get some wide receiver type looks, maybe some him and KJ on the field at the same time, whether he be out wide or whether he's in the box. I think he has too much talent to be on the sideline. Now, with that said, I think he needs every 2 rep that he can get at quarterback. So we kind of restructured it where it's not 1s, 2s, 3s, it's 1, 3, 2s, so we can get him some wide receiver type look, him and KJ on the field at the same time with the 1s, then have the rest with the 3s out at practice, and then him take all the 2s at quarterback. So we cannot afford not to look at him because of his speed and his athletic ability to get the ball in his hands and be sitting on the sideline just in case he doesn't win the quarterback job. We've got to be prepared to get him and help so he can help us win games. I really do like the Fortin kid. He's come in. Cade Fortin has come in. He led a 2-minute drill on Wednesday and scored. And I think he's going to be a fine addition to us as well.
Coach, I know we only have a couple minutes left with you here, and I want to ask about this is your 36th season as a college football coach. 2022 will be your 36th season as a coach. How is the student athlete, or maybe how is the expectations of a student athlete different now than back then? It just isn't as simple as I think as it used to be to be a student athlete. You might have a little bit more, you might have a lot more support, but it isn't quite as simple. So what's different amongst the expectations of student athletes now compared to when you started?
Yeah, I think there's so much more awareness. I think, those student athletes always had a lot on their plate, but now with Twitter and Instagram and, people, guys that you don't see and they're having comments about you and things, you're having to deal with a lot of positivity, but certainly a lot of negativity on social media and those things. Then you throw NIL in the mix, which I believe is a good thing. I don't know that the intent was where it's gone to this far. I don't want to get into that, but I do think it's a good thing. that if certain places are using these guys' name, image, and likeness, that these guys get some benefits financially off of it. But that's added into, and of course now if you added COVID into that, you've got so much more going from a student athlete now than when I was in college. And the time, you get more time with them now than when I was in college. So the time commitment, the social media that's all out there, the Hogs Plus, all these type things are more stress, more strain. They can handle it. They've done a good job with it, but it certainly is a lot different than whenever, back in the 80s when I played.
Mm-hmm. And, Coach, since you have been around so long and you've been such a recruiting guy for your entire career, obviously when you got the job at Arkansas, that was one of the main things that a lot of people knew about you is how great of a recruiter you are. And would you say that NIL has been the biggest, curveball or change up to, say, your recruiting process in your 30-plus years?
Yeah, I think twofold. I think NIL is certainly one of them because, even though we're not supposed to address it, it's at times it becomes impossible. Mm-hmm. The other thing is certainly the transfer portal. I believe that the better off you do recruiting high school kids, the less transfer portal you're going to need. And we want to get to that point where our foundation of our football team is coming from high school kids. And I think we've proven that in how we recruit. But, certainly you have to go out and have needs. And then if you lose somebody, you have to replace them. I think the timing of the transfer portal has to change, where there has to be some type of dead period where a guy can't just walk off your team 12 months out of the year. But those two things, I think NIL has really affected recruiting, and I also think the transfer portal maybe be even higher than NIL as far as affecting how and who and when you recruit.
That was funny how you kind of jokingly said that you weren't going to do the spring game because it would have been the same day as the Garth Brooks concert, so the concert went first. I know that you said, I think you told someone last year that you're a yacht rock fan, at least when you're out on the lake. But Garth Brooks, I would assume since that's the last practice that day, you're going to be at the concert, right?
Well, Garth Brooks Day is You're right. We're going to go that morning, and of course I'm going to go see. It's freaking Garth Brooks, man. Of course I'm going to go to it, and I hope I get an opportunity to meet him as well. He's an old Oklahoma guy as well, and I think we're close to the same age. But he certainly had a lot more success in his life than I have. But I would love to meet the guy. But heck yeah, I'm going to go to the concert.
I'm sure he wouldn't mind meeting you, too. Now we just got to get the Doobie Brothers at Razorback Stadium next time just for you.
Oh, my Lord. Now you're changing the game there, buddy.
Finally here, the top teams in college basketball have been determined, and the Final Four is set. Looking to wager on these games or the national championship? Head over to betonline.ag on your desktop or your mobile device and sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BLEAV to get started. That's BLEAV. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all your updated odds and info, along with player props and new contests throughout the year. It's the best source for all your sporting wagering needs, including live betting and everyone's favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so join today. Learn why everyone is saying BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.